Hi, my name's Nikki. I'm the Obsessive Bookseller, and thank you for stopping by to watch a video. Today, I'd like to share my monthly wrap-up for November 2021. I read 11 books this month, which seems like a whole lot. Like, it's more than I've read in any single month over the last couple of years, but consider that 5 of them are short stories and novellas, and it makes a little more sense. But even so, I made a lot of progress in these giant fantasy tomes that I've been working through, and overall just had a ton of fun in reading this month. I've got Memories of Ice here, and I'm counting it as read even though I still have a little ways to go before the end of it. I think it's the 28th today that I'm filming, so I still have a couple more days to see how much further I can get in it. And realistically, it's going to take me halfway into December to finish, but I am making some good headway. Really loving it so far. And I will say at this point, having read the Bauchelain and Corbel Broach books is definitely adding to my enjoyment of this one. The passages with those characters are among my favorites, and I think it's because of how much history I have with them so far. So yes, very excited for this one. I budgeted my time out for about 3 months to read it, and this is the end of the second month, so I think I'm going to come in a couple of weeks short, which I am really hoping to get through it sooner than later because I have a whole bunch of new physical reads that I'd like to get to before the end of the year. As it stands right now, easily a 4 or 5 star read, but I hear the ending is even better, so can't wait. Next, on a whim, I picked up A Pilgrimage of Swords, book 1 in his novellas, the Seven Swords series by Anthony Ryan. I think all that's right. Had no plans to read it, but I had a gap between obligation reads and it's a novella, so I picked it up, and you know what? I really liked it. It was so cool. Anthony Ryan seems to have 2 sorts of storytelling modes. He's either in Draconius Memoria and Pilgrimage of Swords, where the focus is on this beautiful, expansive world building, and it's more about the adventure. And then he has things like Bloodsong and Pariah, where it's very much all about a boy and his sword, that kind of thing, where it's very slow burn, character driven, there's not a lot of world building going on. Another one that I hope to have finished by the end of the month that I'm currently reading, also picked up on a whim, is Pariah. I'm about halfway through that one right now. It's not the strongest work that I've read from him so far. It's closer to Bloodsong than the Draconia series was, and for me, it's been almost too slow of a burn. Too long between points. I see kind of where he's going with it, but yeah, I'm waiting for something to really grip me. I'm waiting to care about the characters. And considering this was my most anticipated release of this year, I wish I was liking it a bit more. But that being said, it's still an Anthony Ryan, so it's still quite good. It just hasn't quite lived up to expectation yet. But only halfway through. I'm hoping to have it finished within the next week or so. Per review obligation for Audiophile magazine, in which I review audio copies for audio production quality, which is a very big distinction because they really don't care whether or not I like the book itself. They care more about the quality of the audiobook, so that's what I give them. But I read The Best Thing You Can Steal by Simon R. Green. It's the first book in a new series, Gideon Sable, and I did not like this book at all. I have a review coming up in a couple of days, but yeah, this one was a major miss for me. But the audio was good. I listened to the graphic audio version and they did a really good job with it. But there's only so much you can do when the text just isn't there. Another read I picked up for them, Wandering Earth by Cixin Liu. I accepted this one because I thought it was a short story and I figured it wouldn't take a huge time commitment. But as it turns out, it's a new audiobook that's a compilation of a lot of the short stories. And by far the star of the show is the title story, Wandering Earth, which I believe there's also a Netflix show. I think it's on Netflix. In any case, I hear the movie is good. I thought the short story with this particular audio adaptation was fantastic. The narrator did a really good job of conveying the sense of acceptance that these characters have at the horrible things that are happening around them, but with just this like smidgen of hope that things can be better. It was a really beautiful story. I will be doing a book review with that one featuring 3 of the short stories. I liked some more than others. I also finally read A Little Hatred by Joe Abercrombie. Oh my gosh, loved it so much. It's so good. I am stalling on book 2. I could have picked it up immediately, but decided to wait until December because I just have this fear that if I read it too fast, then I won't appreciate it as much. But I'm only willing to wait a month. This was so good. Easily one of my favorite reads of the year. And per Project Urban Fantasy, I decided to pick up Dead Until Dark by Charlaine Harris, book 1 in the Sookie Stackhouse series that prompted the show on HBO, True Bloods. I filmed myself saying that 5 times before I got it right. Now, I first read this book right around the time the first season of the show came out, and thought it was okay. It was a 3-star read. It was just, I liked it. It was okay. I loved this book on the reread. The characters were so rich, and maybe it's because I've been reading a lot of urban fantasy duds lately, but I just thought my favorite character was the grandmother, and I thought the way that the author portrayed her and gave her little quirks, they just felt like real people. Everybody in this book felt like real people, and Sookie, the main character, is kind of frustrating on occasion because she's a little naive. She's not the sharpest tool in the toolbox, but that's kind of the thing that's endearing about her, because realistically, if someone really was sound of mind, they probably wouldn't be entertaining the idea of getting into a relationship with a vampire in the first place, because, you know, we're pretending for a minute that that's a problem people face. Yeah, first time I read this book, I gave it a 3-star. This time around, it's like easily a 4-star for sure. I might bump it up a half a star, but I'm very impressed with it, and I'm excited to have a new urban fantasy series to sustain my cravings for a while, because there are a lot of books in the series, and yeah, can't wait to read more. A friend of mine said, yeah, those have a lot of sex in them. And I'm like, I don't remember that much sex in it. I just remember like one scene. No, what I'm remembering is one entire chunk of the novel that was all that was about. I also read Dragon by Stephen Brust. It's the Vlad Taltosh series. My copy does not have a cover. I think based on publication order, this is book 4, but chronologically speaking, this is the very first book. Second book. And I am liking it a lot more than Taltosh. This author has such a recognizable writing style and tone to his novels that it's great for a certain craving. So when I need something slightly cheeky, but not too terribly demanding, but very interesting, this is a great pick between other things. And I believe the next one for the following month is going to be Yendi, but don't quote me on that. Another short I picked up was Every Heart a Doorway by Sheena McGuire. It's book 1 in the Wayward Children series, and I knew nothing about this one other than it's referred to as a portal fantasy. I quite liked it. It took me off guard on how much I liked it. It's set in a boarding school, which right there has my interest. I love school settings. These kids are ones that have visited other worlds and then come back to ours, and everybody thinks they're crazy. No one believes them. Everybody expects them to go back to being exactly as they were before they left. And this is a place for them to come and recover and kind of support one another. But you know, it's kids, so there's a lot of cliques and bullying, and this somehow oddly turned into a murder mystery. So it was a lot of things in one. But what I liked most is that none of the characters were particularly likable, and to me, that made them incredibly interesting. I'm slated to start book 2 tomorrow, so I may or may not have it done by the end of the month, but I'll just include my thoughts in that in next month's wrap-up. But yes, very strong start so far. I also picked up King of Ashes, and if I had a quarter for every video that I've mentioned this one in, I'd be doing pretty well for myself. But my book club Reddit, we have a meeting in about half an hour that I have to moderate, and I'm gonna have to eat some crow because I DNF'd the book at 30%. I'd had enough. There was something about the way the author was going about telling his story that just irritated me so much. It was oddly immature. The way he handled certain sexual content felt like a 16-year-old was writing it, and everything was so passive. Like, he couldn't just depict two characters having a conversation and the back and forth dialogue. No, he had to take you one step back from that and describe the characters having a conversation, describe how they felt about certain things, and then every time something was mentioned, he'd go off on a huge tangent explaining how that part of it worked into this world. And then we'd be back here and we'd have about one sentence of dialogue before continuing on. So it was very much at an arm's distance, and I liked the subject matter of the story, but I did not like the execution. And I'm going to do a ramble video eventually on this sense of obligation reading. Like, I felt a huge sense of obligation to finish this book, but at the end of the day, life's too short to read the books you're not enjoying. And I think had I continued reading this one, I would have just been rage reading it and finding more and more things to dislike. I'll get a more official review together for this, but suffice to say, dork. But I did not enjoy this one, and now I'm taking a look at this one and the second book that I have on my shelves, looking at maybe donation. That's everything. I had a wildly ambitious list coming into this month, and for the most part, I stuck to it. I read so many books, and what's most important is I enjoyed the process of reading them. I did my best to read one at a time and just take the time I needed to really enjoy each one for what it was before moving on to the next one. And because of that, I was able to read a little faster. Overall, I had a really good month in reading. I'm super excited about everything that I got through. And what's more, I'm incredibly eager to dive into my TBR for December. I've got a video to that effect coming out next Tuesday. I have a lot of great books on my radar. I'm in a really good reading mood, and I'm starting to make reading more a part of my daily habits. Thank you so much for watching my video, and I hope to catch you next time. Bye.